Hello, just a little while ago I reviewed this guy. This is the Eachine UZ65 and I said it's my new favourite whoop, and it still is. My one little bugbear with it, or little niggle, is the fact that this camera angle couldn't be changed any further than this. If you look, and it's really quite difficult to see from here, there is a little mass of wires under there, under the camera, and they hit this VTX. This VTX is kind of diagonally in, and there's a bit of sort of material to stop it vibrating, I guess, or to stick it down, and that basically prevents that going down any further, because if you try and lean it that way it hits the board and it won't go. And a bunch of people, like 5 or 6 of you, said, have you tried moving the VTX so you can move the camera angle down? And you know, I hadn't thought of that. What a good idea. And half the reason I put stuff on YouTube is so you guys can correct me, so thanks for that. I'm going to see if that is possible, so I'm just going to take these bits off, see if I can shove this around a bit so I can manoeuvre the camera down. There's not an awful lot of, well, there's a big space here obviously, but the board fits in a certain way, so it might be possible to sort of pick it up and then manoeuvre this around somewhat. But yeah, let's go and try it. I'll unscrew it and see what we find when we get in there. Okay, so that was just a bit of sticky that was holding that, so it takes a little bit of manoeuvring, but what I've done, I've got the angle flatter. I've moved the board around and I've made sure that it's sort of jammed in on the connector, so that's not moving, and then we can't have any potential shorts against that. And then what I've done is I've just put the UFL connector out there to help keep in place there, which is not quite vertical, but it's quite reasonable. And I've moved the camera down to where it's like a slow inside fly. What I mean by that is, the idea is we should just see the sort of ducts, and if we just plug in, see what we've got going on. And you can just see we've got the little ducts there, so if you're sort of creeping along you can really tell where you are, not a problem. But still go reasonably fast. Again, it's not dissimilar problem in the terms that it's not exactly simple to move it all the way back, and in case there's actually a little lump just under the sort of top part of the frame where you have to sort of, it's flexible enough to sort of push and force the camera past it, and then you'd have to sort of force it back. But if I was going to lean it back anymore, I'd probably go with more of a diagonal angle here, which you can do, and that will allow it to come back, have the diagonal come here, and then you've got more movement. But it's either kind of going to be, for me, it's like, let's fly it flat here, or I can go up a little bit more, or if I want to fly it as it was before, I'll just move the board back. There's not one spot that's sort of perfect for it where you can have it nicely, because it's quite tall, so really you want it back there, but it just won't happen. Where you can just move the camera to your heart's content. It's not quite, it just needs to be about this much bigger. I'm sure if people print their own like TPU stuff and that, they'll have a much better experience, but it's a shame they didn't think about that when they brought it out. Literally, the fact it's got this lump here which stops the camera rotating properly suggests they never even considered it. Anyway, I'm going to try and fly this now, see how it goes.
So I charged up full batteries and I had a good old fly around the house as per usual, in and out to the garden because it was quite nice. And yeah, going downstairs is a lot nicer because you can see basically the stairs, you don't have to look upwards. And where this comes into its own is if you want to go slowly, because previously where the camera was pointing upwards it was difficult to see where the ground was. You kind of had to fly forward all the time to see stuff. So I sort of looked for little gaps. They didn't always come off, of course. I bashed into a load of things. And the change, I have to say, it isn't massive. It's quite subtle, but you've just got the ability to be able to go a lot slower, and when you hover you're sort of not facing upwards. That said, the camera was wide angle enough so it wasn't too bad, but it was just enough just to make certain things hard. But you put the camera angle down and it's very easy to sort of become the explorer quad. Of course, if you just want to fly it fast all the time, I wouldn't bother. But there didn't seem to be a particular downside in doing this one, and here's me just finding out that I can annoy my daughter by spying on what she's doing on her screen remotely, which amused her non-stop. And I found you could still fly it fairly fast and you're not just staring at the ground all the time. So yeah, it wasn't a particular downside for me. I'd probably keep it like this, but yeah, if you want to just go fast all the time, then there's absolutely no need to do this. And it loses none of its manoeuvrability. You can sort of obviously still throw it around and do the really quick turns and stuff. So yeah, it worked for me. It might not work for you. It really depends what you want for a quad. I still find it weird that this is their design. They just had to make it the right size and it would be fine. And here's just a quick tour as I'm able to fly nice and slow of some of the consoles I've got on my shelves up there. Please ignore the wiring. That's an absolute nightmare. And I make my landing like I feel all whoops should be landed, and that's just to land on top of you and make sure you stare up at your own face. Perfect. See you next time. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.